Welcome back. So in this one, I'm going to draw a crouching pose, and I'm using a Pinterest board that I created. So if you want to check that out and see the exact pose, I'll link it in the description box below. So I've assembled all these poses, and I love adding these to Pinterest boards. I got to be so thankful for the models on Pinterest. And if I can find the actual model or photographer, I'll link that as well. I didn't see it in the picture, but maybe I can do some digging and figure it out, follow the link or whatever. We're so fortunate to have exceptional models and poses on something like Pinterest. I love it because you can create this entire board surrounding any number of variables, but you can get super specific. It'll start showing you more that are in that genre, that style of what you're already researching. It's just great, and it's a great way to do your more relaxed studies. So there's a time and a place, I think, for doing your time studies, your 5-minute, your 1 minute, your 30-second gestures, things like that. And then there's a time for slowing down and just drawing something the way you want to draw it. So in this particular instance, I'm going for a mix of converting it to a comic style, but still paying attention to a life study, and also paying attention to the amount of time it takes me to run it through my own stylistic conversion, is the way I tend to think about it. And this is important, I think, for comic work, because even though, by the way, I'm not doing any page work right now, I don't work on any books, I just like sharing my journey on the channel here. But I think it's so important because it gives us a gauge to say, okay, like if I did this, I could knock out a panel in a couple hours, in a systematic way, really, too, where it's like, or a repeatable way of like, yeah, I took a pose that I was not ready to draw. I drew it pretty close to the way I needed it to add the next level of illustrative work, the clothing, the shadows, the final rendering, stuff like that. Obviously, background, all that stuff. But it allowed me to get a pose out in 15 minutes that I might have otherwise struggled with and had to redraw a couple times. And in that process, I'm also learning. I feel like I'm learning more when I do it this way, because when I go to draw a pose from life, I can slow down quite considerably, because I don't know, it's like I get way too critical, and I'm trying to capture every component of every bend, every nook, every cranny, which is a weird way to put it, I guess, but of trying to draw the body. And the body's so complex and has all these little nuances, right? So I kind of forego all that with this process, because I'm like, no, I want to get something out a little bit faster, and I'm going to redraw it in my own style anyways. So I'm trying to interject my style into it as I go. And so that means simplifications, that means smoothing some things out, maybe even missing some things. But it becomes a nice, time-effective way to get the pose done. And again, I'm learning on the job, so to speak. So another reason I really enjoy this way of drawing is that it allows me to really experiment with style as I go. So I'm trying to make small stylistic changes even though I'm studying from life. So again, grabbing hopefully some of that gesture, some of that pose, but at the same time injecting my own style. And I've been more focused on that lately, and this is why. I think that our style is really our best way to fight back against all the the AI stuff that's flooding the market. If you notice, it all has a very distinct look. It's all a bit monotonous. Like it does certain things really well, and other things it falls apart. But that's not even the point. You almost immediately know that you're looking at an AI image, right? Well, if you know marketing, you know that that's a bad thing, not a good thing. Like when you're branding, when you're creating a brand, you want something that stands out on its own, even if and sometimes brands will even go in the direction of something that's pretty significantly considered ugly, which that's subjective, but at the same time, they do it because, wow, you're not going to miss this brand. It's noticeably this, right? And so your style is your brand, and that's your opportunity to, really have your own voice, really take things and make it recognizable, as there's no doubt in somebody's mind that's your stuff. Now, it can mimic you, right? That's the big fear part of it, right? It can mimic you, and it can do what you do in your style faster, but it still has to mimic you. It will always be a step behind. And again, for branding purposes, style is super important. Just think about, I got into comics in the 90s, but think about your favorite artists that you follow or followed that got you into drawing or whatever. What captivated you about their work? What brought you in and kind of got you hooked? And for me, it was a lot of those style heavy, artists. And essentially, they're still doing it. I mean, a long time ago, this was a long time ago, and they're still kicking out amazing work. Some of them are doing their best work ever. I just think that's super inspirational, and I feel like that is the right choice. And one more thing, I don't want to get too off into, the fears of AI and all this stuff. It's just a messy topic and kind of sick of hearing about it, honestly. But the thing is just remember that if you're getting too concerned with it and too fearful of it, you need to take a break from media, right? And that even means YouTube, unfortunately. But at the same time, just do more drawing. Get back to what's real in your life. And real is sitting down and creating something and enjoying the creation process. That will generally put you back on track and kind of alleviate some of those negative feelings, because a lot of these companies and the people out there that are adopting it, they want you to feel like you are no longer valid in this industry and this stuff's taken over. That's just not true. Even if it was true for, we'll say, half of the world, which I would say would be a bit much, but we'll say half, right? It still would leave you the other half of the 8 billion people to work for, right? So it just doesn't, it's not as big of a deal as they want you to believe. That's a good way for them to sell more subscriptions. So I won't get too far off into that, but the reason why it comes to mind is because as I stop to draw from life again more, I realize what's important, right? Drawing from life is super important. A lot of times I avoid it because I like drawing from my imagination so much. But if I do that for too long, I sort of just repeat some of the mistakes that I've been making or lack of knowledge about the human body. I have to revisit drawing from life, even stylistically. I have to revisit my anatomy books. I even have to study some terminology. As far off as that sounds, well, what does that really matter if you know the names? It just kind of helps out here and there. And I don't know, I feel like it's that hard work part that reconfirms in my own mind of dude, you deserve to be a great artist. I mean, you even stopped to learn the name of the muscles. Don't you deserve it? Yes. It's almost like that bit of self-confidence. And then it just feels good when you go to look at part of the body and you understand it a little bit more, right? You just tend to draw it better because, again, it's that little kind of hit of self-confidence because you did the hard work that you otherwise were avoiding. So a lot of times when we put in that effort to go past an area in our work that we know there's avoidance attached to. I do it with poses. There's certain poses I like to draw, I feel confident at drawing, and other ones I struggle with. And that's really why I wanted to share this today, because this is one of the poses that I know I would probably avoid or struggle with a bit more. As soon as you start identifying that and then approaching that with a positive mindset and a diligence mentality, no, I'm going to really get this done. I'm going to really get past this roadblock. It's a hit of self-confidence as an artist that I think we all need, and that shows through in your work, and in turn gets you work. It gets you recognized by your peers, and it shows another level of quality in your work because you're not avoiding drawing hands, you're not avoiding drawing backgrounds or whatever that thing is. And generally the resistance is harder than the actual thing. So you put in the hard work and you ultimately earn the fact that you deserve to get work. And people see it. People identify with the fact that your work is progressing, that it's constant, that you put out a lot of stuff, that you share the love and the joy of it. I mean, who couldn't get behind that, right? I mean, the people I follow, the artists that I follow, they kick out amazing work all the time, and you see the passion they have for it, or else they would disappear anyways. You just wouldn't see their work anymore. You'd be like, man, what happened to that one artist? I really liked their stuff back in the day. Well, they stopped. They gave up. So, of course you're not seeing it, and of course you can't follow their work and therefore probably support them and buy product or whatever. So, again, remember that you can earn your right to be the artist that you want to be, it's obvious. I don't know. Maybe it's just obvious to me because, people talk about how it's so hard to develop your art and be a good artist and this and that. And I'm like, wow, was it ever easy? Or they'll talk about it in terms of time. Wow, it's way harder than it's ever been. And I just think, wow, was it ever easy? Because ever since I was a kid, I remember people telling me, don't be an artist. It was never easy from the start. So to me, this is another day in the office, as far as all the craziness that's going on. So anyways, I don't mean to be negative. Hopefully it doesn't come across that way. I want to inspire people and motivate people. But even that's a little bit of a slippery slope. You can't wait for inspiration and motivation either. That's something you're going to hear a lot of people say, like, oh, get inspired, get motivated. No, you create motivation through action, determination. That's just the way it is. It's that way with anything. You don't show up at a job and all of a sudden you're waiting for the employer to get you inspired. I mean, hopefully they can inspire you, but that's not how it works, right? You show up and you just do the work. Well, same thing with art. So you got to put in the time, and if you want to be better faster, you have to squeeze in more studies. And so there is a part of it as well where when you're doing these studies, you want to be in the right frame of mind. So you also want to get pretty good at relaxing into it and taking breaks when you need it. But that doesn't mean taking breaks where you just are in a state of avoidance and in your head too much, right? You have to do the actions, and that means lots of drawing. It does help to find things that stimulate you wanting to draw, seeing some cool artwork, right? Something that I always talk about on this channel. Nostalgia is a very powerful one. So I can open up some old 90s comics of when I was a kid, basically a young dude, and I was getting inspired, and I can kind of reconnect with that. And that, I don't know, it reinvigorates me. It gives me that little spark that I need to start drawing. But there's times that I don't feel like drawing any of this, and I do it anyways because I know that that's just part of, I'm just kind of not feeling it that day, and it ebbs and flows a bit, but you still got to do the work, and you keep pushing the pencil, keep pushing the stylus. Eventually something cool comes out. I don't know, I guess I look at it like you're going to have a bunch of bad drawings, and then all of a sudden you have a really good one, and that really good one makes it worth it. So, plus it just helps to remember that every time you do the hard work, even when you're not feeling it, that's when you're proving to yourself that you're a professional, that you can be a professional. Because that's what professionals have to do. I mean, I've had enough jobs throughout my life where when I showed up to do the art, storyboards taught me this quite a bit, where I show up to do the art and I was not feeling it. Didn't even like the product or thing that I was drawing the boards for. Definitely didn't like the story of it. And I'm just like, I got to draw it anyways. So that's kind of life. And that's what a lot of young artists don't realize too, that be ready for that, because when you do work in a professional capacity, unfortunately it won't always be the fun stuff. I mean, hopefully you just enjoy drawing so much that you'll be fine with it anyways. But yeah, there's times you just have to push out the boring work. But again, I like to then kick my mind over to, this is the part where I'm putting in the hard work that proves that I deserve this profession, this job. It gives me that self-confidence. This is the way I look at it. I'm earning that self-confidence by working through something that's not exactly fun at that time. But hopefully this video has helped you with, the polls, and you can look at, again, the reference if you want to go to that Pinterest board. And I would love to know what you think. Do you like this type of study? Would you like to see more of this? I mean, I'm probably going to share more of these because I had a great time with this one. And again, it felt very actionable and something I should be doing more of. So I'll make sure to share more videos along the way. And so I appreciate everybody watching today. I appreciate you supporting the channel. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, keep drawing, keep having fun, and bye for now.